In the early 1970s, jazz musician Emmett Chapman developed his famous Chapman stick, a 10 or 12-stringed instrument similar to the guitar, but the Chapman stick is a fully polyphonic chordal instrument that can be used to play bass lines, melody lines, chords, or textures on musical recordings. Trey Gunn, a native Texan now residing in the rock-rich city of Seattle, has taken it one step further and moved from the Chapman stick to the war guitar. His services on this war guitar are required to recreate Peter Gabriel's earliest solo works with the star-studded players in the Security Project. Welcome everyone to the 4th Philly Soundcast. I'm Eddie Caiazzo, and along with Doug Schaub, we're telling the stories originating in and passing through the city of brotherly love. This Philly Soundcast features the versatile musician Trey Gunn and how his skills are being employed to cover the many different sounds heard in the Security Project. Gunn, a famous war guitar player, is known for his work with Tool, Brian Eno, John Paul Jones, and so many other great rock and roll contributors. But he was also a mainstay for more than a decade in one of the best progressive rock groups, King Crimson. Let's go now to the interview Doug Schaub captured from the road with versatile rock star Trey Gunn.
Hey, Doug Schaub here, on the phone again with another amazing guitar player, Trey Gunn. Caught up to him before his show in Indianapolis on November 17th, 2017 at the Irving Theater. He's currently in a band called Security Project, and they're wrapping up the first leg of their Northeast U.S. tour. I asked Trey how things were going.
The band's playing better and better every night, and even though there's a lot of kind of tightly composed pieces, there's some nice stretched out moments, and we're shifting the set around and just fine-tuning it every day.
The Security Project album is called Contact. It's got 11 tracks on it, all Peter Gabriel reworkings, with Kate Bush's hauntingly beautiful Mother Stands for Comfort smack dab in the middle of all the tracks. You know, after hearing the album entirely, I really wouldn't call this a cover album because there's a unique stamp that you guys put on this music.
First of all, the music is so unusual, and it's never been played. Probably can't say it's never been played by anybody but Peter. There are some people who have taken a stab at it, but it's almost kind of unplayable music because of the sounds and because of the voice, and because you have to turn it into something else. Otherwise, it is just kind of a lame pastiche of Peter. So in that sense, I feel like we have either done some of it so authentically deep, of course, using a female vocalist, that changes it, or we've actually taken some of the material and really changed it, but kept the essence and the spirit of it as we saw it.
I got no means to show identification. I got no paper show you what I am. You'll have to take me just the way that you find me. What's gone is gone, and I do not give a damn. Empty stomach, empty head, I've got empty heart and empty bed. I don't remember, I don't remember, I don't remember, I don't recall. Got no memory of anything at all. I don't remember, I don't recall. Got no memory of anything at all.
Calling the Security Project a talented group of musicians is an understatement. Trey's already a modern prog rock legend for his time in King Crimson, and on this tour for the Contact album, Trey teams up with the who's who of town, including Peter Gabriel's original studio and touring drummer Jerry Marotta. Michael Cozy of Shriekback fame is on guitars. Philly favorite Happy Rhodes at the mic with her 4-octave range, unbelievable. And the digital music pioneer Dave Jamieson on keyboards. Trey gives us the rundown on the band.
You know, our drummer played with Peter and played on the first 5 records and played with everyone from Paul McCartney to everywhere. And then I've been in King Crimson and worked with Robert Fripp and David Silvey. And our guitar player played with Shriekback and worked with Andrew Ridgely with George Michael and Wham and on. And our singer has 11 solo CDs, Happy Roads.
Well, Happy Roads is fairly popular here in the Philadelphia area.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot she's known there and played a lot around there.
She's like the ninth wonder of the world with that voice.
Yeah.
You listen to that record and you hear Annie Haslam, you hear Annie Lennox, and then and when she does the Kate Bush tune, she sounds like Kate Bush.
I know.
It's scary.
Yes, you are right.
Mother stands for comfort. Mother will hide the murderer. It breaks the cage. The fear escapes and takes possession, just like a crowd rioting inside. Maybe do this, maybe do that, maybe do this, make me do that. Am I the cat that takes the bird? To her the hunted, not the hunter.
And our keyboard player helped invent digital audio at IBM, so he's a super deep guy.
This guy could probably retool a Dyson vacuum cleaner and make it sound great.
Yep, exactly. That's how I will tell him that later. That's good. And that's been required in order to even tackle this material. We've had to really dig into the sounds and say, how do we make this sound, or do we need this sound, or what function does this sound have, and what's the structure of the music, and why is it that way, and do we need to do it that way, or it's taken kind of a lot of library research and decision-making all along the way. This is not music you can just get up and kind of strum through. You have to make a lot of decisions. That's a lot of material you don't have to make those decisions. It's quite obvious, or you just play it. But this has had to be a very deliberate process.
I try to pry a bit into the method behind Trey's madness, because having Peter Gabriel's solo stuff as your source material is already an experimental and deep process to recreate. This project is way outside of the mainstream rock radio airwaves. So did he learn to appreciate this particular style of music from his years in King Crimson?
Next year is my 50th year being a musician. So I guess, you just learn from everyone that you come in touch with, and you study different kinds of music. For myself, I'm very interested in music of the world, and as Peter has been. So I guess I just kind of sampled the world's table of food and picked and choose what works for me, and as we all have in the group, and we just apply everything to the task at hand. And the responses have been great. I mean, the record sounds amazing. The record's a live record, so it's live, mostly recorded in Japan, of which our guitar player, Michael Kotze, very deliberately and meticulously mixed and made it sound great, although we do sound that good live, and people respond to it. The music is so epic, and the journey through all the different kinds of material and moods is pretty, it's just very dramatic.
The new album, Contact, begins with this tune, Lead a Normal Life. Does a professional full-time touring musician really get to lead a normal life and relax every once in a while?
Yes, I do. Being on the road is a challenge. I don't do it a lot, like a lot of my friends. I mean, I do a couple of weeks every 2 months or so, and I don't like being away from home, to be honest. I like being around my friends and family, and I like to, I practice martial arts, and I like to be at the dojo 5 days a week. So when I'm at home, I get to do all that. I live in Seattle, so I go to the mountains, and I go snowboarding, but no, this on the road thing is not a normal life at all. Not as messed up as the story in Normal Life, because the song Normal Life really is about kind of being put into an asylum because something's gone wrong with you. So hopefully that's not where we are. That's not where we end up.
It's nice here with a view of the trees. Eating with a spoon, they don't give you knives. Expect you watch those trees blowing in the breeze. We want to see you lead a normal life.
You're listening to the music of The Security Project, featuring our guest today, Trey Gunn. If you visit the official website, securityprojectband.com, you can hear the Security Project's rendition of Lead a Normal Life for free. But you'll also see Trey Gunn's contributions listed as war guitar and backing vocals. That's spelled W-A-R-R. What exactly is a war guitar, and is it something that Trey invented?
The instrument I play is from what we call a family of guitars called touch guitars, and they're made to be played like a piano with all the fingers of both hands on the guitar neck. And no, I didn't invent the concept. It's not exactly clear who did, but certainly one of the pioneering instruments that I used to play and that many people do play is called the Chapman stick, made by a guy named Emmett Chapman out of Los Angeles. I met another guy a few years after I'd been playing the Chapman stick named Mark Warr, W-A-R-R, who built the instruments that I play now. And Mark's the builder and the designer, and I just kind of got together with him and told him what my needs were. And over the course of several instrument designs, he kind of honed it down to the instrument that I have in my hands now. The unique thing about it is that it's really two instruments in one. It's a bass instrument, so it has bass strings that you can fill the function of a bass player, and then it has a set of guitar strings that are separate outputs, so you can do all sorts of guitar things, and you can do them at the same time because you can use one hand on each side at the same time. So I kind of bounce around in this group from being the bass player to being the soloist to being textural to adding kind of percussion elements. So it's an extremely diverse instrument the way I use it.
When I do these interviews, I learn so much about the guitar specifically. In previous Philly Soundcast episodes, Charlie Gracie taught us about the backbeat on the guitar and how he learned and used that technique effectively in the 50s. Steve Hackett explained the difference between one- and two-handed tapping. Steve's two-hand tapping technique inspired the likes of Brian May and Eddie Van Halen. So I had to ask, what exactly is the touch guitar?
Well, getting into the mechanics of it, the way you normally plucking a guitar, it takes two hands. So one hand, the left hand in a right-handed person case, is fretting the instrument, which is changing the length of the string, and the right hand plucks the string to give energy to the string, and that's where the sound comes from. With the tapping technique, or the touch technique, it's the same action. So you're actually touching the string at the point on the fret, and which technically changes the length of the string. So it doesn't use any plucking. In other words, you get the energy of the string going by bringing the finger down onto the string. And I like to kind of equate it to almost like playing the piano on the inside of the instrument, because there's no mechanics between you and the string. A piano has so many mechanical operations between the key and then the thing that hits the string. And guitar players use a pick often, although Jeff Beck doesn't. So that's more on the string. But we actually just go right to the string, and that generates the energy. It's crazy looking. Even when I look at videos of myself, I can't figure out what I'm doing. From my side of the instrument, it totally makes sense. But from the front, it's really crazy looking. It doesn't make any sense how the sound is coming out of it.
It's so cool to have someone like Trey Gunn explain techniques and the mechanics. And I feel that you can learn something new about the guitar every time we hear one of the greats talk about it. But I asked him about his influences and feelings about the instrument itself, and that was a curveball thrown back at me.
Well, I mean, obviously I worked with Robert Fripp for many, many years, and I continually return to his wisdom. But what's really funny is that I don't really like guitar that much.
Oh my gosh.
It's not an instrument that draws me as an audience. It draws me as a player, but as an audience, I'm kind of more interested in voices and drums, and that's just me. I've heard so much rock guitar in my life. It's not what gets me excited anymore. There's a lot of wisdom from guitar players, and of course, kind of a constant source of amusement and inspiration.
Well, getting back to Robert Fripp, he, along with Ian McDonald, Michael Giles, they formed the band King Crimson in 1968, and Trey jumped on board from 94 to 2004. Here's what Trey had to say about the enigmatic and legendary Robert Fripp.
He's incredibly dedicated to his craft and to a level of commitment that most people will not go that far. So he just has a lot of gems from taking something and just going further and further and not stopping, and he's still going. The process of playing the instrument, the process of what's involved in a performance and bringing the audience in and bringing the music alive, the process of being a professional, he's dedicated to discovering his own way through all of that.
Our guest today, Trey Gunn. It's always my goal when I do one of these interviews and with my online radio station is to pick up where my friend and mentor, the late great Ed Shockey, left off. And that's telling stories like this one. Progressive rock music is an audibly intricate and beautiful subgenre to rock and roll that deserves to be heard and celebrated for generations to come. And Philadelphia is a progressive rock town. And this new reimagining of Peter Gabriel's music from the Security Project is an exciting entry into the modern prog rock landscape. And you can't mention modern prog without mentioning one of the great producers of our time and musicians, Steven Wilson. If you'll remember, I asked Steve Hackett how Steven Wilson fits into the picture remastering so many of these old prog rock classics into 5.1 surround. Is it really a labor of love, or does he get paid?
Oh, he's absolutely being paid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We've known Steven for quite a while, and of course, he's the go-to remix guy.
Yes.
And remastering guy. No doubt he loves doing it, but it's an insane amount of work to do the 5.1, because of course these records aren't set up to be mixed in 5.1 because they weren't made in that way. So you've got to reorganize all of the audio and figure out what to do with it. But I know he's been asked to do so many that he has to say no. He can only take on the ones, obviously, that he really wants to do, or the ones that he thinks are going to work. I'm sure he loves it, but also it's a serious piece of work. I'm sure it takes months and months to do one of them.
Whistling tours with kissing baboons in the jungle. It's a knockout. If looks could kill, they probably will. In games without frontiers, war without tears. If looks could kill, they probably will. In games without frontiers, war without tears. Games without frontiers, war without tears.
Trey Gunn is a hired gun, so to speak. So when a band or performer reaches out for his services, does he do the Jeff Beck thing and tell them to mail the tapes and he'll lay it down in his own studio, or does he have to travel?
These days, I don't usually go to a studio. I usually do it in my own home studio. It's just because it's logistically complicated. If they live in Seattle, of course, that's another story. My stuff is there, and I can just drive over. But it's very rare for people to fly somebody somewhere for a session these days. It almost doesn't make sense because I can probably work better at home in my basement than at your studio. It depends on the context, but... Yeah, generally most all of us do remote recording these days.
Oh, really?
Which is great, and it's also a little bit sad because something extra can happen when you're in the room with somebody. Sometimes I play just more surprising stuff. One of the things when you're in the room with the person who is making the track or who wrote the piece, you can instantly pick up on the vibe of the piece and what they're hoping for. Much quicker than my studio. I could spend hours fishing around, whereas when I've been in the studio with people, I'm not going to use the word usually, I wouldn't say usually, but oftentimes I can kind of play the right thing right away. So, it's just how it is nowadays. It's just sending files through the internet, Dropbox. And of course, the cool thing is you have lots of collaborations that you would never have because people are just too far away, and it's just not feasible to fly everybody around the world to get guests on your record.
Now, for all you guitarists out there who struggle like I do, I always want to know the answer to this question. What advice could you offer to someone looking to improve their guitar playing?
I'm still struggling. It's a completely ongoing process. It's no different than my Aikido work at the dojo, where our sensei's been a sensei for 40, 50 years. It's ongoing, so there's no... you just pick up, you steal little bits from everyone you digest them yourself and try to make something, and you're always learning. There's no end. There's absolutely no end. it doesn't matter how good you are because there's always somebody better than you. So it's really just down to the process, what you're doing today. And you can learn from people who technically don't know as much as you or play as well as you. So you can always learn. So that's all there is. That's all there is. It's just a process. To me, it's about finding your own voice, and that's a much more challenging prospect than becoming a jazz guitar player.
I struggle with getting sounds out of my head and then, make those sounds with my guitar. How do you do that?
There's a long answer to that, and probably a short answer too, but I don't know the short answer at the moment.
All right, yeah.
You have to find a way to articulate it. You have to. It's just like if you have an idea for a novel, well, at some point you've got to sit down and start writing it. Does it begin quiet and get louder? Does it start high? How fast is it? You have to kind of answer all these questions. And really that's what musicians are doing. They're articulating not even a sound you hear in your head, but they're articulating a feeling, which doesn't even have sound connected to it when you step even further back in there. So that's what we're trying to do. That's the whole process of practicing, is learning to connect all those disconnected bits so that you can just flow with it.
So do you pick up the guitar every day?
No, but I'm involved in music somehow every day. I do a lot of practicing away from the instrument rhythmically and ear training and just do what I can. And then when we're on the road, and of course my guitar is packed in the van all but 2 hours of the day.
Always great to do these things. Thanks so much for tuning in to the 4th Philly Soundcast. And thanks to guitarist Trey Gunn for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, that wraps up my conversation with guitarist Trey Gunn of King Crimson fame, now playing his War touch guitar in the Security Project. They're wrapping up a tour of the Midwest as we speak. Check their website, securityprojectband.com, to find out when they may hit the road next. You can also pick up their latest record, Contact. Check out the track listing at their website as well. Album has 11 tracks. It is live, 10 of which are reimaginings of Peter Gabriel tunes that were released early in his solo career. Also on the album is a rendition of Kate Bush's Mother Stands for Comfort, wonderfully executed by the Security Project's lead vocalist, Happy Rhodes. I'm Doug Schaub, and along with Eddie Caiazzo, we're telling the musical stories originating in and passing through the city of brotherly love.